All right, well, we will jump in. Welcome, everyone. If you are here, we'll have some time kind of like middle to the end for some Q&A, but if you're just kind of listening in, just make sure you're muted and feel free to, kind of like drop any messages, questions in the chat along the way. But welcome to this edition of Firestarter's Expert Sessions. We love these sessions because it's just a time to, you know, get someone who is expert in a topic that we just to kind of like help expand all of our knowledge on something and go really deep in a very supportive way. So we're thrilled to be joined today by Danielle Lindner, who I met through Michelle's Cunningham's community, who many of you also may have, met Danielle through Michelle's community as well. But Danielle has an amazing, story of really, sorry, people are popping in, just growing on Instagram really fast. And I think social media is this topic that, we live in, a digital age. And to a lot of us in this room, are in the personal brand space, have an expertise and, growing a digital presence, a strong digital foundation is really part of being able to grow your business in that space. And part of that, dynamic is not only having, a website and funnels, but also, how are you going to generate traffic and get people, eyes in your offers to really be able to grow your business. And, one of the, you can pay for ads, of course. And, we at Firestarter have started offering support around that because we, understand getting traffic, to your offers and to your business is an essential piece of growth. But also, there's organic growth and, social media is one of those, key strategies. Instagram being one of those channels where how many of you have had the experience of, you're like, you hear about a new restaurant or a new this or that, a store, and you go to Instagram to look it up first versus Googling it. I know I'm guilty of that. And, or if you hear about something, you're like, oh, that's cool. And you like check if, they have like an Instagram profile to like validate, their, whether they're real deal or not. I also know I've been guilty of that. So little context about, my kind of like personal journey. I have kind of a soft spot with Instagram because I think I got on Instagram fairly early, like 2012 or something. But didn't really just kind of like use it like, everyone. And then several years back when I was like, okay, I'm really gonna like, take building a personal brand, the online space seriously. Instagram was kind of like the doorway in. It was kind of like the first, thing that I started learning about, like what is trending audio, like how do you make a reel, and just like really kind of like obsessing about it, which I know Danielle, will talk about, part of why she grew so fast was she started obsessing.
Yes.
Anything that we want to, kind of like, you know, what you focus on expands, right? And so, my experience was, really starting to like figure out, things that seemed foreign in the beginning, like just
All right,
figuring
thanks.
out, what it meant. Um, and one thing I'm, interested to, hear Danielle's perspectives on. So my journey was growing in one area. I started, sharing a lot about, going through a divorce and, a lot about my personal life. I grew a pretty big audience pretty quick. I mean, not like Danielle's, but my audience grew fairly fast on that topic, about 10,000 followers in a few months. And then I decided I wanted to pivot. So that was, and kind of get back, to the core of, focusing on business and, building a personal brand, et cetera. And so that was a really interesting, journey that I think informed, just thinking about Instagram, thinking about what it means to grow a brand online and, kind of the importance of like niching down versus like more complex people with all these different interests. And so all these topics I'm excited to, dig into with Danielle here. So without further ado, welcome Danielle to this edition of Firestarter's Expert Session.
Thank
So
you for
happy to have
having
you
me.
here. Awesome. So I would love for, I know many in the room know you, but for those who don't also, I would love for you to introduce yourself and share a little bit, your backstory of like, why are we here with you talking about Instagram?
Yeah, I know. So, sure. So, I'm an entrepreneur. Basically, I've started a number of businesses, human resource, recruitment management company, and we service 44 different countries. And then I started a preschool 16 years ago because I was, working a million hours at the other company, and I wanted a place for my kids to get STEM and foreign language and, character education. And I couldn't find it, so I opened up a preschool in the part of the building that we weren't using for the other company. It's funny because we were moving people to like virtual way before anybody was working virtually, because we were finding that when you're servicing so many different countries and so many different time zones, having everybody in one building in the same town doesn't really work. So we were like doing that long before anybody thought that was a cool thing to do. And so once we started moving people off site to home offices using like all these weird things um, like Apple, what's it? It was like like AIM, whatever it was, like and
Yeah,
Yahoo
instant
Talk,
messenger. Yeah,
like
yeah,
instant
yeah.
message, and like you've got mail and all that 100-year-old type of stuff. And voice over IP was just coming out. And so we were doing all that, and then as my building started emptying out, I was like, you know what? I have room here. Maybe I should put a preschool here. So that's kind of like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that now. So I had been focusing on that elementary education, which I have a degree in elementary education. I was focusing on that for a long time. And then I wrote a book, The Pocket Guide to Surviving the Preschool Years. And I was like, oh, well, I should really start promoting that book, and then I should get an Instagram. And I started doing some parent coaching. And I started doing Instagram because everyone was like, you can't sell one to many unless you have an Instagram. And so I'm like, all right. So I started it, and it was abysmal. Like, I had no people. I had a couple likes, my mom maybe. My daughters, I'd like promise them like, I'll give you an extra $50 if you like my post. Like, they were just like, I couldn't even get people that supposedly love me to like my posts. It was just awful. And so I was like, but there are people growing out there, so there's got to be a reason. And so originally, so like 4 months before that, I went and I bought a bunch of followers because I had a business coach, not Michelle, before Michelle, who said, oh, buy followers. It'll, legitimize your account. It's going to be really great. Don't buy followers. It does everything but legitimize your account. You get a bunch of bots, you get weird people, you get people that will never buy your service, they will never engage with you, and it just dies. Like, the account becomes dead. So I started a new account, and I started training myself, figuring out what are the things that all these other people are doing to get likes, to build their account, to get followers. What is it that I need to do? And I took a couple months to just study and just get every little piece of knowledge that I could. And I built my own basic framework and a system that would work for somebody like me. I'm over 50. I'm not all that techie. And I didn't want to spend a gazillion hours a day dancing in front of my computer. But there had to be a way. So I came up with a system. And within 5 months, I had 250,000 engaged followers. So that was really exciting. And now it's been about 8 months since I started, and I have about 350,000. So that's my story.
It's amazing. And if you haven't checked out that account, it's Parenting Takes Practice. And I was telling Danielle before we before we started the session, I actually feel like we hung out this weekend because I have an almost 5-year-old son, and I think maybe it was sort of preparation for today's conversation. But I had the account out. My son got hold of my phone, and we kind of spent the weekend like binging on some of the crafts on and he woke up this morning, Danielle, and he was like, I don't want to go to school, I want to do crafts. And I went to CVS this morning, I got some contact lens solution to make some rubber bouncy balls. We've got an egg that we're dissolving in vinegar to take the shell off. So I think that speaks to, I don't think your intention was to, have it be bingeable for a 5-year-old, but for, like your right audience, it's like, it's very bingeable. It's so approachable, like how walk us through a little bit of, like what you learned in that, kind of like odyssey of, deconstructing what was working for other people that ultimately kind of like went down into your framework that you then applied on that account, obviously to great success.
Yeah, so the and it's funny because I went back a couple days ago and I scrolled down to the beginning of my account and I was like, "Oh, this was terrible." And what I realized, and you can do the same. You can look like if you scroll down on my account, like to the bottom, you can see how it started, how it was very like, oh, I have a picture of my dog and he's so cute, and oh, I have tips to survive at Disney, and then I have, oh, this is a really cool, thing to do for your mom. Like it was so disjointed. And what I realized is whatever niche you're in, it has to be very drilled down. You can't deviate because the algorithm has no, it has no brain. Like it can't infer anything. So like if I had 20 posts about real estate in Scottsdale, let's just say, and then all of a sudden I put some posts about, oh, my kids just graduated from high school. And then I put a couple posts about, oh, I just bought these really great running shoes. I love running. And then I put another post about Scottsdale real estate. Like all of a sudden, the algorithm's like, wait, is this person's a realtor or are they like, is it just a personal account? Are they selling sneakers? It gets very confused very fast. And it's also the same for people that want to find your account, right? So like, it's great what you said, Willa, because you go to that account and you know right away what you're going to get. You're going to get tips. Moms are going to get parenting tips, or parents are going to get parenting tips. And you're going to get screen-free activities to do with your kids. And you know what you're getting. You know that you're not going to go there and see anything about a new car I bought or a house or it's very focused. And so once I started really focusing and saying, all right, this account is for parenting tips for kids, let's say 5 to 8, and the best activities on Instagram. It's very, very clear and it's very like nailed down. So now when I have 300,000 people, I can every once in a while throw in like, congratulations to my daughter for whatever, but infrequently, because otherwise the algorithm's going to get confused again. So I think that was the biggest thing that I learned, that you really have to be so specific. And even if you have a business that does many different things, your Instagram cannot.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I have kind of heard like kind of like what you're alluding to. Like now it's like you've bought some leverage, right? It's like you've established, the algorithm like knows what you're doing. Like, so if you do, want to sprinkle in, a little bit more diversity here and there selectively and carefully, you've kind of like built a little bit more kind of like flexibility, but really to kind of like grow the kind of like,
Yeah.
kind of niche down, be hyper specific so that, when someone visits, your profile, they know exactly like who it's for, how it's going to help them, right?
Right.
I'm curious, your sense of like, I know you've we were talking a little bit about this as well, and maybe you can reflect on it a little bit as well. Initially you were starting to build out another Instagram to focus because I know you're doing a lot of, you've learned a lot and based on the
Yeah.
success, you really, doing a lot, also in the kind of like Instagram, space, coaching others and just kind of you're an entrepreneur. So, kind of like general, business coaching as well. And, yeah, your journey of like thinking maybe I'll do another Instagram, but then, also, realizing you want to just kind of like focus where it works. So
Right.
like, I'd love to hear your perspective also on like, what do you think in terms of Instagram growth is niche specific in terms of content types, like the mix of content? What even are the types of content and why should you consider posting different types of content? Would love for you to, what's your feedback there?
Yeah, so initially I thought, because now I am doing a lot of coaching one on one with people, helping them with their social media. And I thought, oh, well, I should make a separate Instagram account just for social media and Instagram tips and all that stuff. But then I was posting stuff about women in business and entrepreneurship and Instagram and Facebook monetizing and like all the different things that I love talking to people about. But realizing that Instagram doesn't know who the heck this account is for. And I realized that I was also spending so much time trying to grow two accounts the right way that it was hurting both of my accounts. So I decided that I was not going to grow that business account anymore. And I'm going to continue focusing on the parenting account just because all my best practices I use on that account. And so I would rather spend my time when I'm posting showing the good things that I'm doing, showing the tips and tricks by doing them on that account and showing people, when I work one-on-one with them, well, look at this account. Here's what we did here. Here's how I used AI for this. Here's how I remixed that. And here's how we can use it for your niche, rather than trying to do 8 million accounts for different things, a business account, an Instagram account. Because it doesn't really work, it's like it doesn't really work. I say it's good to have two accounts if you really want a personal account. Like if you really want something that's just for your personal friends, where you're going to just put, life's moments, and all these great things that happen in life and your dog dancing and you just want an Instagram account of your trip to Florida, like use a personal account and just throw everything there. But just if you have a business account, make it one business account because it's just too hard. It's too hard.
Agreed. Having, some of the team members, Danielle and others will know, I have at different times over the years, been like, okay, I'm going to go all in on both accounts, and
Yeah.
I think many in this room probably have started, ambitious and be like, oh, I'm going to be so on it. And, but then it really is long term, really hard and kind of unsustainable unless you have a lot of support, to really
Yeah.
kind of successfully run more than one account because it's just, they both require a lot of focus. One thing I will offer is that, the solution we've landed on for Firestarter is like, because of, people do look up businesses, on Instagram just for validation, things like that. And it's nice sometimes to be able to tag. So what we did was we, for a long time had, for our kind of like umbrella business Firestarter, we've had kind of a business account for a while. We ended up archiving all the content there, having the main link and just having it clean. Daniela can share a couple of those links in the chat, but we
Yeah.
just have like a wall. It just has our logo, so if there's something there, we can tag it and it will get to the link, but it's not, they're not accounts, and we have the same for Firestarter funnels, but they're not accounts that we actively manage. So it's a way to have a presence without
Right.
pretending like we're going to actively manage them. So that's another strategy too, if you really want to kind of like have another presence, but also not feel like you have to fully manage that account.
Now, Babe had asked a question about stories, reels, and posts.
Yes, I'd love for you to kind of break down what are the different content types and why are each important? Are some more important than others? What's working right now? Would love you to kind of like break down because I know we're kind of at all levels, in this
Yeah,
room.
sure. So, reels are video, and stories are video for the most part. Reels go out to a vast amount of people. They're seen by people other than your followers. Stories are only seen by your followers and they're only 24 hours. So if you put a story up, and it can be, you can turn one of your reels into a story, but it's only up for 24 hours and then it disappears. So stories are really to keep your followers engaged and up on what you're doing, sort of, they don't, not every follower will see every story. You probably know, like when you go into your account, you'll see these circles of everyone's stories, and you don't necessarily click to open every one of them. But at least you're kind of getting in front of your followers by showing a story. Reels go out to everybody. Posts are static. So posts can be one picture in a square, or they can be a carousel. Right now, carousels are doing extremely well because people are really thirsty for knowledge. So, carousels are basically you make a bunch of photos or pictures or graphics and you put them in and you can scroll and you can do up to, I think, 10 or more now. And so now the key is the more, I call them slides, the more slides you have in a carousel post, the better it is because people are more likely to save it, to go back later and look at it. And so when you get saves, you get more value on that post and more views, and Instagram starts pushing it out more. The other thing is trial reels. So once you get over 1,000 followers, it used to be less. Now it's 1,000 followers. You get a little thing in your menu that says trial reels. And when you're posting, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see something that says trial reel. And you can toggle it on. And what that does is it puts it up, but not to your followers. It only shows it to non-followers. So it's a great way to test things that you may not want to put out to your followers right now. So, like, for example, I wanted to do a post about how I'm now going to start sharing a little bit about Instagram and how I grew my account because so many moms were asking me, how can I do that? How can I work from home and take care of my child? And I realized that that is part of parenting, and that is something that it's my duty to share with parents so that they can take advantage of it. And I'm going to teach a little bit of that on the parenting account. But I first did it as a trial reel to see if it was, how would that do? Would people like respond to it, not respond to it? And then when I saw that it was, doing pretty well, then I transferred it and shared it with everyone on my feed. So that's basically how it works. But the key is that people want savable stuff. They want tidbits of information. They want lists. And so if you do carousels, which you can easily do in chat or Canva, like you can bang those out pretty quickly. People really like those. And they're usually, people save them.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like seeing a lot of carousels and doing very well, and they are helpful, right? You kind of scroll
Right.
through like very binge worthy. um yeah, I love that. And also I think thinking about shareability too,
Mm-hmm.
is there something that's kind of like gonna strike a chord? They're like, oh, I've got to send this to 5 people because it's just like it's so spot on.
Yeah, and what I also did was there as another way, if you don't want to make 10 slides, I've been making some posts where I have like say it's an activity. I'll have like the egg one you saw, Willa, like I'll have one post with 4 boxes in it. So essentially it's almost like a carousel
Oh
because
yeah.
each box has a different part of the activity and directions in that box, but it's one photo. It's like one picture. And those do really, really well because those are easy to save. People love that. They can screenshot it, which is now the newest update on Instagram is that they're thinking about starting to track when people screenshot your posts.
Super interesting. And I think a lot of this speaks to is like experimentation. Instagram is kind of continually adjusting, what it prioritizes. So I think kind of like if you're focused on growing, kind of trying to kind of tune in to what some of these voices out there who talk about, what Instagram is prioritizing. I remember, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, there was a trend where, in the stories, like the bandwagons that you would jump on and kind of like share
Yeah.
image that related to like, so I don't know what they were called, but it was like they were getting tons of like, maybe if you got like 20 views on stories, you would get like 200 views if you participated in that, kind of like crowd posts. So Instagram is always kind of like playing with, what they're
Right.
prioritizing, what they're featuring. So I think just kind of like continually tuning into that over time. In your kind of experience, Danielle, like, are there things that worked for a while that then kind of like have evolved that you've noticed even like in the last 9 months, you would say, or year?
Yeah, I'd say that remixing has really changed. Like it used to be that you could just remix anything, which is taking someone else's content. They allow it to be remixed. If some allow, some don't, but if they allow it to be remixed, it will show you that it's allowed. And you can put your own spin on it and just repost it. It used to be that you could just kind of be a little lazy about it and not really do too much to it and still get a lot of views. But now they're kind of like clamping down on that a little bit. So you do have to be a little more creative. So if you're going to remix something, you do have to make sure that you're remixing it so that people are getting more additional value because of how you're adding to it. So for me, like I might take an activity and then put on the reel different like text boxes saying, well, this activity is great because it actually hits on fine motor skills. It helps with handwriting. It helps with sensory skills, you know, things that the person didn't talk about. They were just like, oh, here's how to make an airplane. But they're not talking about, this also teaches kids about aerodynamics. And then the other thing is making sure that your caption is also something that people want to read and something that they may want to save. Because if you have a reel, I mean, this is kind of a separate thing, but if you make a reel and it's sort of short, not too short, but, you know, like 5-10 seconds, it's kind of a short one. But your caption is very engaging and people open it because they want to read your caption to say, oh, what are the extension activities that I can do with my child with this? Or, oh, what are the great restaurants that I can go to in Phoenix? But they're in the caption and they spend time scrolling your caption and reading your information. At the same time, your reel is playing over and over and over and over again. And that's helpful for the algorithms showing that people are valuing it. So,
and those all get counted, right, as views.
yeah.
Those kind of like every time it loops.
Yep.
Yep. Speaking of that, you know, obviously there's like on Reels, there's number of views. What are some of the other, you know, if you go into well, can you talk a little bit about the different types of accounts? Because I know there's like professional accounts, personal accounts. Why would you, you know, want one over the other? And then also, you know, how do you think about insights? You know, what role did looking at insights play as you were growing? And, you know, what are the insights to kind of pay attention to?
Sure, yeah. So there's a personal account, which is just a regular free Instagram account. There's a professional account, which is also free, and a business account, all free. But if you're going to do something where you're selling something, then you definitely want a professional/business account. And then within that, I think they keep changing what they call stuff, but it may be in business account, or in professional account, you can have business or creator. I always say for business, no matter what your business is, if you're brick and mortar, have a business account. Like a restaurant or, you know, a massage place or nail place, anything brick and mortar, have a business account where people are just looking up to find where you are, find your location, and see what you offer. If you have any other kind of account where you're selling something online, it's not brick and mortar, have a creator account. Because Instagram gives more tools, free tools, to creator accounts. So that's an important differentiator. The other thing is you might see that blue check mark on some accounts. That is a meta verified account. So you do have to pay for that. Why should you pay for it? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it is $15 a month, which is not cheap. But when people see a blue check mark, they see someone who is willing to invest in their business. So they more likely won't be a scammer. Now, there's plenty of people with blue check marks that are scammers, but psychologically, when we look at it and see a blue check mark, we think, oh, it's a business. It's a real business. So that's one thing. It gives you some, you know, authority or whatever. But the biggest thing for me, why I have it, is because you get actual live customer service. So if you do have a problem on your account, or if you do get hacked, or you do have issues, you have a real person. And they also give you identity protection, which if you just have a regular account, you have none of that. And so many people I know have been hacked, they've lost their accounts, people have stolen their identity. And if you don't pay for Meta Verified, you have no recourse at all. So those are some really important things. And what was your second part of your question?
I can't remember it unless someone else I can remember it. But I do have a question. I'm sure this is, I think one of the pain points, right? Is like, okay, so I know Instagram's important. I know social media is important, but it just like, I just feel like I have to wear so many hats as a business owner. Like, how do I even find the time to create content, post the content? So would love to know, behind the scenes, what does, I know you grew this account, you're a mom, business owner, you know, what does your content creation process look like behind the scenes so that you could do this in a way that was manageable? I'm not saying, I mean, you clearly dedicated yourself to it, and I know that it takes some time, but would love to hear any kind of like tips, hacks, strategies, what it really looks like behind the
Sure.
scenes.
So I just remembered you asked about metrics. So I'll
Yes.
answer that next after this. So for me, at first I was posting like a crazy person constantly because I was testing and I was trying all these new strategies and building my system. But now I kind of have it down to a little bit more of a science. So I take it, I batch create, which you probably all heard about. So I'll take an hour or two during my day and I will use Claude or Chat. Usually I will use Claude to come up with, I'll say, give me 20 really great activities. I'm just using a parenting account, but it could be for anything. Give me 20 great activities that kids would love, that parents would love, that are easy, that I can create posts on. And it'll give me 20. Then I'll say, give me the image prompt for all of these 20 activities so that I can export it in or import it into chat to create the four box image that I want with directions. So then it will give me all those prompts. I'll take all those prompts, I'll throw them into chat, and it will create all of those images. And then I will say, then I'll say, give me a caption, very SEO heavy for the caption, and a very strong hook for each of these posts. And then I take that and I go into my Meta Business suite and I schedule them all. So it's not like it takes 5 minutes, but it definitely cuts down on a lot of time. I used to create everything in Canva. I mean, obviously Reels, if it's me talking, I'm making them myself. But for posting and carousels, I'm relying a lot on Claude and a lot on Chat. And I'll even, for Chat, like let's just say, you can say, I keep using like real estate in Phoenix. I don't know why it's top of my mind, but it's just sort of an easy niche to think about, right? But you say, hey, I want a 10 slide carousel for the best, focusing on the best restaurants in the Phoenix area. Do the research. So it'll give you a list of all the best restaurants in Phoenix, and then I'll say, create 10 slides. It takes a little time because, sometimes it's not perfect. You have to fix some things, but it'll come up with your slides. It'll put in the information. It'll give you, and then I'll say, give me a caption about these restaurants with a list of all of them and their websites. And then there you go. So it really works for any niche that you're in. You just have to be a little creative. And if you're not sure what to ask or what to post, I will go into Claude and say, I just don't know what to post today. I need a 30-day content calendar for my photography business. Can you give me some ideas? And they're all not going to be great. But even if you can get 10, 12 out of there, then it cuts down a little bit of that time. So I lean on that a lot, really.
Yeah, I think that, AI can be super helpful for, even a couple of years ago, it wasn't
Yeah.
nearly as integrated, into, our content creation, workflows. But I think, today it's not that we don't have excuses, but it's just like, how can you feel less alone in it and figure out, the
Yeah.
kind of like workflow and system to like use the tools to, be able to support you versus feeling like, oh, I have to like heavy lift of, doing all this myself. I know we've had a couple of different questions in the chat, and this was one of my questions I had. Do you use, I think you mentioned the business suite. Is that what you use to schedule? Do you use any third party tools for scheduling?
I used to schedule sometimes through like Go High Level, um, but I don't anymore. I just schedule them right in the Meta Business Suite. It seems it's just
So
easier
is
for
that on
me.
your is that on your desktop, or is that on your phone in the
I
app?
do it on my phone, but it's on your
Yep,
desktop too.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
I do everything really from my phone.
yep.
And the other thing I do is, which I learned from Tanya Memi, who many
Tanya,
of you
yep,
may know,
exactly.
is if you're going to do reels and you want to batch create, just put on your camera on your little tripod and just start talking and don't even turn it off. Just like let it go and start talking, talk for however long you want, and then edit it into smaller videos in CapCut, and then you just have a ton of content. I used to like film it and then, oh my God, I made a mistake, and then film it, oh my God, and like now I just like cut it. In CapCut, I cut it, I edit it really close together, and I have all this content. It's so much easier. So that's another way to get content without killing yourself. And
And
then
same on that note,
if you so
yeah, go for it.
I
I was
was
just
just
gonna
saying,
say
if you
like
see the
B-roll. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same. Just like, it's like if you are in a good place, just, like have a folder on your phone that's like
Mhm.
B-roll, and then just, you're like,
Yep.
oh, if you're like dressed up or in a cool place, just like shoot a few shots and then just add it to that, B-roll folder. You can have another one, for when you're talking on camera, and then you have like a ready, library of content to go back to and, use when you're not feeling so inspired or so pulled together in the moment.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say is if you could see the back side of my computer right now, the little couch in my office, it's covered in outfits because like I'll do 1 hour of just videos and I just change my outfit, but it's the same day.
Do that for the podcast as well. Like,
Yeah.
record multiple like 22-minute
Yeah.
episodes back to back to back, and we might have 7 different outfit changes in
Right.
there.
Because like I don't want to do my makeup and
Yeah,
put contact lenses on like every day. Like I don't want to do that.
exactly, exactly. Martha asks, do you find a difference in how Instagram promotes your AI generated images versus pictures or carousels?
No, no. I haven't. Like I've had some that I've spent hours in Canva creating and they've gotten like no views. And then I've had some that I've spent 5 minutes making on chat and they have, 600 views. Like I did that egg one I made where you put an egg in vinegar. It took me 5 minutes to make it. I should not tell my secrets, but it took, it took 5 minutes to make this and I put it up. I posted it on Instagram, and then I cross post to Instagram to Facebook, and I did nothing with it. And like they paid me like $60. Not like it's life changing, but for 5 minutes to get $60, why not? Like it's very surprising, and that's the thing. Like I try to teach too. Like use your stuff and like cross post because if you're making really cool reels and you're making cool posts, eventually you'll get enough followers so that Facebook will let you monetize those. And so it's like shoe money, it's like a little extra money. Why not? I didn't even know that I was making any money cross posting until I went into my Facebook account one day and it said you lost $500 because you never gave us your bank information. And I was like, what? And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid. Like because they will put ads on your posts and pay you. Most of them get 2 cents, 3 cents, but every once in a while, you hit those good ones. And I've had some posts that have made $200, $300. So you just don't know, but it's kind of a fun thing.
I love that. I love that. I feel like another kind of like question or, people are like boosting a post versus running ads. Like what's the
Yeah.
difference? Should you boost posts? Like I tried ads and it didn't work, but they just boosted a post. So would love like your perspective on that.
I say don't boost. Boost is how they get your money and don't do anything. They will show it to a billion people, but they're not going to be people that you want. They're not necessarily people that want to buy your stuff. Let's again use the realtor in Phoenix, right? She has a great post. She boosts it. It goes to everybody in a million different countries and a million different states that have no intention of ever moving to Phoenix. It's such a waste of money. The best thing to do is if you're going to run ads, run them through the Facebook ads campaign where you can pick an audience and you can, really narrow down who you're looking for. You can put pixels on it. You can really figure out who's, looking at it and get real metrics and stuff like that. But boosting is pretty, I'm much a waste, I think. The other thing is never run an ad from your phone, only run it from your laptop because if you run it from your phone, at least if you have an Apple phone, they're going to tack on a very hefty fee. And if you run it through your laptop, there's no fee other than, the ad fee, what you're going to pay for that day. So I learned that very quickly. I'd run an ad and say, I want to spend $5 a day. And I think it's $100 ad. And then I'm being billed $150 because Apple charged me $50 fee. So don't run stuff from your phone.
That's fascinating. I didn't know about that about
Yeah.
that tack on, but yeah, that's kind of like the word on the street, that
Yeah.
I've, kind of like the boosting versus like running real ads. It kind of tells Instagram, tells the algorithm, okay, like I'm gonna versus you having to work hard for me, I'm gonna pay you actually to get to get views, so you
Yeah.
can get lazy because I'm just gonna keep paying you if I want views versus really getting the algorithm to work.
I think too also I will run ads myself sometimes, but I think there really is a big benefit to having, someone like Willa or someone that, really knows how to do ads to do them for you because you can really waste a lot of money when you don't understand how Facebook works and it's very complicated.
I think for sure. And I mean, I think that's why, we have brought in expert ad support, both
Yep.
to, to amplify our team, to be able to support our clients and, to be able to support our own, ad strategies because, I, like Danielle, have run ads myself. My journey was, kind of like learning enough to be able to get them launched. But then I realized pretty quickly I could get them launched. I could kind of like start to optimize a little bit. But when it started to get into like retargeting and a long term strategy, which is what you really need, to kind of get the long term traction that I think everyone's looking for, you really do need someone who's like really experienced in the space and is
Yeah.
going to kind of have the bandwidth too for that, dedicated long term strategy and support. It's not just kind of like the media buying. It's really like a layer of, strategy as well. So agreed on that. And we do at Firestarter, driving traffic, to anything that you're doing, whether it's organic, growing a huge audience, supplementing with ads as well. And I think honestly, a pretty healthy mix of both of them is kind of the best long-term strategy as well. I think growing the organic audience, of course, grows your authority, grows just the right kind of people coming to engage with you, engage with your offers. But then, ads can also accelerate that. And it's been interesting too. I have found that ads can also be a nice way to just kind of get some extra followers as well, who are aligned, who, you can see on Instagram as you're scrolling through your activity feed, started following you from a reel, started following you from an ad. So it's, in the spirit of testing, learning, seeing what's working. I think it's always interesting to see, the different traffic sources and where you are getting new followers and what's, striking a chord with people.
So Gary had a question about when to start a new Instagram page, and that kind of goes to metrics too. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sure. So I had that one account, right, that I had bought followers and I was not getting any real people on it. But I thought, all right, let me figure out if it's worth trying to resuscitate this account. So here's what you want to do. You want to go into your metrics. So it's hard for me to remember every little part. So I'm going to open up my phone. I hope you don't mind. So you go into your account and there's a spot that says professional dashboard. And so you go in there and you can find an area that'll say views, interactions, new followers, that type of thing. So if you go into your interactions and you scroll, wait, no, hold on. Sorry, that's not right. You go into the hamburger on the corner and you're going to go into insights. That's what you want. So go into your insights. And then you want to look at followers. And you can decide, I would take the last 90 days. So you get a really good idea of who's following you. And you look at your account and scroll down to the bottom. And it's going to give you some really important information. So it's going to tell you the cities and the countries where you have the most followers. Pick countries. On my account that had the 20,000 bought followers, I had 5% United States and 10% Pakistan. I'm sorry, 5% United States and 30% Pakistan. And 50% India, and the rest was South America. So I knew they were not people that were going to be like the right people for my account. Then I also scrolled down and I noticed that the age was 18 to 24, almost 80%. 18 to 24-year-olds, for the most part, are not following a parenting account. They're not interested in that for the most part. They're not my people. But what I noticed even further is that you can also look at gender. And although it's a parenting account, most of my coaching clients, when I was doing parenting and that stuff, they were moms. They're mostly moms. And 91% of the people in that account were men. In my account now, the new account that I made, my parenting account, I'm going to tell you what it is. 92% United States. My 50, 60, like 70% is age 34 to 65, which is what I wanted. And it's 92% women. So I knew that other account was not worth reviving because there is no way you're going to change metrics like that anytime soon. It's going to be pretty impossible. So in that, if you have metrics like that, where it's just not your tribe of people, start a new account. Don't bother with it. It's a waste. You're just going to be, it's like, you should have called it an hour ago.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
think that's
life
great advice
in that account.
Yeah.
But then even that business account where I was like, oh, should I keep going with it? I could have kept going with it because honestly, it was 95% United States, and it was mostly women, and it was mostly age 45 to 65, which, when I'm doing my business coaching, my Instagram coaching, I'm mostly helping women 40 and above. So that's an account it's not dead at all. I'm just choosing to put it on hold because I don't have time for it. But that's an account that's still very viable if you want it to be. The other one is not. So let Instagram tell you if you should be using your account, starting a new account, and let Instagram tell you what you should be posting. You don't need to guess at all because every time you post something, you can go in a week later or a couple days later and you can pull up all the insights and you can see who's looking at it, for how long, when are they liking it, and you'll know if it stinks. And if it's like not doing well, you're like, I'm not going to post that again. Like, you don't have to keep guessing because it's the guessing that hurts your account and hurts your algorithm.
And speaking of not having to guess, we are so lucky because you put so much of your wisdom and knowledge into your course, which I know
did.
Daniela dropped the link in the chat, but we're so grateful for you taking the time to build that out, so that, none of us here have to guess again. So I think that's such an amazing resource. And also, I know it's something that, people feel like oh, it'd be so amazing to just like have personal support from you, who have, gone through this experience. Like, but can you look at my account and help me figure out, what my strategy should be? Something else we were talking about,
Yeah.
leading into this was, how you've been working with, say, someone who has a VA, who is posting, or even if it's themselves posting, but just being able to kind of like coming in with that kind of like outside perspective, that kind of like expert strategy to just like not totally reinvent the wheel, but like, okay, like it looks like this is working a little bit better. Like lean into this. Maybe don't do this as much because it just doesn't seem like that's, getting as much traction. So, um, as many of Firestarter, we really try to kind of like have an ecosystem where we really try to support that, full business journey, building out your personal brand, but both the front end, and the back end business system. So we're so happy to, have Danielle's expertise able, for that kind of like one-on-one support and consulting, not to like, she's not going to go and start, running your Instagram account tomorrow because we know that even running one account takes a lot of work, but, to be able to kind of like help audit what you're doing and kind of like offer some of that, high level, very personalized strategy as well. There are a
Yeah.
couple of like nice pathways, the course being one, but also, that one-on-one support available.
Yeah, so I do one-on-one Instagram support every day. So anybody, I will audit your account. I will help you. It's so fun too because even like I'll work with people and we'll just work on the bio. And the next day, people will be like, oh my God, I got like 20 DMs for the first time ever. And I'm like, I told you. Like, so it's really fun. It's really gratifying. And sometimes it does take a little while. But if we can work on it and I can actually look at your account and I can give you some tips and tricks, then it starts to happen, and at least I help you get set up so that you're set up for success rather than spinning your wheels and all that. So if anybody does want information like that, they can just email me directly at Danielle@daniellelindner.com. Should I put that in the chat? Because I know no one spells
Yeah,
my
put it.
name ever.
Well, Danielle will do it. She's a better typer than I am. Any other questions, everyone? I know there's been some great questions in the chat. Babe, I know you dropped a couple there. I don't know if you got to all of them.
Yeah, and I have actually, I was saying to Willa, I actually worked with a client and their VA because the VA was making really great content and great graphics, but it really wasn't working for the account. So I spent an hour with the VA and said, okay, I want you to do this, this, and this. I want you to change this up. I want you to take these videos, cut this out, and just put this. And then the client, they didn't know how to direct the VA to get what they wanted. So I'm like, let's just all get on a call and we'll do it together. And so that was real. That was really fun too.
I love that, right? Because like having the hands-on help is super
Yeah.
helpful, but it's good to know that like you have the right strategy in place as well. Babe asks, how often should we post?
How often should we post? It's not about how often, it's about being consistent. So if you're, I would say you need to post at least twice a week at a minimum, um, not less than that. But if you're gonna post twice a week, post twice a week so that people know that they're to expect your post. And it's almost better even if you pick days that you're gonna post, like Wednesdays and Fridays, so that people are expecting that on Wednesdays and Fridays they're going to see your post. So, as an example, a client of mine has a coffee shop, and every Friday they take coffee to another local business and they film a reel. And it's the most hilarious thing. But I look forward to Fridays because I know that I'm going to see their reel on Friday. And so I know, oh, it's Friday, their reel's coming up. So, and I don't really pay much attention to their account the other days because I know Friday is the day that they put up the funny reel. And they get so many followers and likes and DMs and visits to their coffee shop from that Friday reel. Now, they do post some things during the week, but not much. It's just that consistency and also a series. They have a series. So that's also, people like that. I'm always looking for that. Visiting the other people series.
I love that. And that's such a great idea too. I think that speaks to another thing, is like getting ideas, and it doesn't even have to be in your niche. I think often some of the best ideas can come from other niches. So how could
Right.
you borrow that, the idea of a series or, that's kind of like visiting another business, and kind of like bring that into your own strategy, like getting ideas from what other people are doing. We have
Right.
we have AI tools, but also just like spending some time in the discover tab and binging a little bit and saving what resonates with you, and just recreating in your own voice can also help bust through some of those creative blocks. Jessica, I know we're kind of getting to the end of the hour, but we have this is such a good question. I think a lot of us have this feeling and this kind of can relate to this. How can I post without sounding too salesy when the goal is to get hired? LOL.
Yeah, I always say the best thing is give away stuff that you think you should charge for free. Give away tips and tricks and ideas and strategies that you feel could charge for this for free. And people will start to see you as an expert. And then just have your call to action in your post or at the bottom of your caption. And if people start to value what you're saying, they're going to go to you. You're not going to have to say, call me for, nutrition tips, or call me because I have the best, I don't know, whatever, mops on the market. They'll see like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. They're so cool. They're really giving me a lot of information. Imagine if I paid them what I would get. I think one of the good examples is like Michelle Cunningham, right? She does a lot of free webinars and seminars, and she gives away a lot of stuff. And I try to do the same thing. I try to do a lot of tips and tricks, and by the nature of doing that, people will just start to say, wow, well, if I'm getting that much for free, then I'm probably going to get a lot of value working one-on-one with that person.
Yeah, and I think that's, we talk a lot about, at Firestarter, like building that kind of like strong, foundation and kind of like building it so that you kind of magnetize, through your content, through your messaging, through your positioning, everything, like magnetizing that right audience to you. And if you are offering so much value and people are like, oh, I just want to like be part of this person's world, and what are they going to say next, then I think
Right.
that helps. I think
Yeah.
Martha, I think we were talking Friday maybe about that, like know, like, and trust factor and how important that
Yeah.
is, and looking at every piece of content across your channels. We just relaunched our podcast, but all of these different touch points just help build that relationship. And how can you
Yeah.
think about fostering that know, like, and trust factor through your content, so that it just becomes a much easier decision when they are in positioning you as an expert also, Danielle, as you said, so that when they are looking for that, wedding planner, wedding photographer, it just becomes like you're in top of their mind. And I think also that consistency and just the reps of just creating content, continuing even before you have the evidence, that it's fully working, but that also stokes the algorithm, tells them that you're serious, and tells other people that you are consistent and serious, and you're here for the long run, and you'll be much more likely to be at the front of their mind when they are ready to make a decision. And you never know. I think in my own journey, it's like you never do know. When someone who enters your world, it might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 months, it might be 2 years. But if you continue to kind of build that relationship, and part of that is through your content on Instagram, you just never know when it will, quote, convert. So
Do we have time for one last question? I
yeah,
know
one last
Nancy
question.
had one. Okay.
Yes.
So Nancy was asking, will a reel that is a trial and be visible also on her Instagram page? So here's the thing. If you post a trial reel, it will not be visible on your feed until you release it and put it on your feed. Do not post it on your feed and as a trial reel, because then Instagram doesn't like that. They don't want you to be copying. Either if it's a trial reel, let it run as a trial, and if it's doing well as a trial, leave it as a trial, because every trial is bringing in new followers that you didn't have before. But it won't show up on your feed and your trial reel unless you physically post it both places.
Perfect. So much good advice, wisdom here. Even like I want to pull out that section where you're talking about, your like strategy for content creation. That was like pure gold. But
Thank you.
everyone here, we will be we will be sending out the replay of this as well. So much good stuff here. So we'll also in the email, we'll include a link to Danielle's course if you haven't grabbed that yet. And, also stay tuned for, coaching inside of Firestarter with Danielle. Really excited because it's, a question we get over and over again is, can you help me grow my Instagram? Can you help me support on Instagram? So psyched to have your expertise on the inside. And thanks everyone for joining this expert session. We love these, such a fun opportunity to just dig behind the scenes, of someone who knows a lot in, one topic. So yeah, great. Agreed. Yes, Bronwyn will be definitely sending out the recording. So thanks everyone. Happy Monday.
Thank
Great
you,
to see you.
everybody.
And we'll see you the next time. Bye. Thanks, Danielle.